push. Okay, take a look. This is a mail art piece I once stumbled upon in the archives at Kunsten Museum of Modern Art in Denmark. A mail art piece about 30 years old, a picture of an asphalt igloo and the word supertanker, which also means super thoughts in Danish. But notice the stamp on the side. All reproduction, modification, derivation, and transformation of this object is permitted. This piece was in Mogens Otto Nielsen's mail art archive, a messy archive with more than 16,000 items from around 600 different artists in no logical order. And as a PhD student, it's my job to sort it out and to map it and to make sense of it without making it fit too well or to make sense where there should have been nonsense. But I keep getting lost in the archive. I'm constantly losing track of time. I browse through the material, I stumble upon something. I stop and dig deeper until I remember that I was looking for something else, and I return to browsing until I find another interesting piece, perhaps something connected to an object somewhere else in the archive. And so, slowly but surely, I drift away, getting further and further away from the starting point of the trail I was supposed to take. Now let me just briefly tell you the story behind the archive. 50 years ago, in the beginning of the 60s, an American artist begins to build a network. He creates records of addresses on colleagues and friends, and he begins to mail all kinds of stuff: collages, drawings, photos, visual poetry, small objects as part of a letter, as long as it could fit into a letterbox. The works of art began to circulate. A work of art could set off one place, be transformed another place, and end up at a third location. Or, like here, an artist could get an idea, invite people in the network to deliver the parts, and then assemble the parts to a single work of art. It was an attempt to free the art from the official institutions of art, especially the art galleries. It should reproduce itself, change according to circumstances, and spread much like a virus. So in many ways, what we thought was something new, that information should be something that could be transmitted and ever-changing, was actually something that pre-existed today, digital culture. Perhaps not in our society as a whole, but in an entangled avant-garde network that operated outside the institutions. So, today museums are collecting mail art archives, but they don't know what to do with them. It's a practical problem and a philosophical one, you could say. On the one hand, you have the order of the archive, that is the modern idea of an order with stable categories. On the other hand, you have the mess and the disorder of the mail art archive. And to navigate in this chaos, you need a good map. That's why my next task is to make a digital visual map of the archive. But how can one make a map that is easy and accessible and somehow resembles the mess? And how can one create a map that passes on the archive fever I talked about in the beginning? And also, this isn't just about mail art archives. The archive is extraordinary, but it's also interesting as a radical version of a very contemporary problem with large collections of art and cultural heritage and too much information. So the mail art archives, it calls for a new way to visualize and organize our museum collections. Not to keep the visitors behind computer screens, but really to deepen the understanding and to unveil all the hidden stories and the funny anecdotes and all the knowledge attached to each museum object. And so the archive, a digital version of it, is going to be placed in Danish Broadcasting Corporation's open source system called Chaos. That's Cultural Heritage Archive Open System. And at the museum, we are now connecting and tagging each item based on our professional knowledge and free associations. And so down the road, we want the visitors and users to participate and help us with this work. I'm now working with a small group of museums and digital designers, just generating ideas. Yeah, this is actually just an early sketch. I would like the map to pretty much work like the brain, going from one idea to another, like associations. So you wouldn't just connect countries and artists and such, but also associations that users might get from a single object. I'm now working with a group of museums and designers. We're just generating ideas, and we'd like to show you some of the sketches, but please bear in mind that these are first drafts. Don't look at the graphics, only the kind of visual idea of it. On the first map, this should be coming up after this one. It's based on tagging, so that at the museum and the user should be able to tag each object in the archive. And then all the tags and all the artworks would be placed in a pool, in a clusters of nodes in a pool. Here it is. And then users should be able to go through the archive through curated trails and user-generated trails. That's the C's and the U's you got there. What we need to figure out, though, is a way to let the user easily oscillate between the overview and the complexity, the structure and the detail. Another idea, which is coming up shortly, is based on the Z-Dragon technology, which enables you to zoom in and out of large collections of images. You are also able to oscillate between, or reshape the map to a grid, a diagram, and a web structure according to different keywords and categories. A lot of work needs to be done, of course, and hopefully I can steal one or two ideas from you. In the end, we hope to get just a bit closer to one of many solutions to our growing problem of making sense in big data sets and cultural heritage and art, without losing sight of the enormous creativity in these messy museum collections. Thank you.